Hi, my name is Nan, and this is my Relinquish deck that I got to King of Games with on Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. First off, I want to preface this with the fact that I'm not going to claim that this is the best Relinquish deck or anything like that you can build at the moment for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. At one point, I looked at the cards I had and I decided to build a Relinquish deck, and I wanted to see how far I can go with the deck, and I ended up going all the way to King of Games. Also keep in mind that I haven't spent a single cent on the game yet. I know there are a lot of people out there who have power farmed and, spent money and stuff like that to make, the best deck you can possibly make in Duel Links, but I honestly think it's not that necessary. If anything, I just want to prove that you can have a few, I guess, off cards and it'll still be okay, at least in this format. Anyway, let's go on to the deck profile. So right off the bat, we have 2 Relinquish, and obviously it's the name of the deck and the whole point of the strategy. 2 I think is a good number for the Duel Links format, because 3 would just clog up your hand, especially in the context of if we're talking about a minimum of 20 cards and stuff like that. And I think 2 is the right number for in this case. Relinquish, of course, is the key to winning for this deck, and I love using this card. I think it's a whole lot of fun to use, especially when you happen to, well, rightfully so, most people want to summon their strongest monster in their deck, and when they do summon it and you have to play Relinquish the next turn and then steal their monster and use their own monster against them, it's strangely very satisfying. This is going to be a really random card for this deck, but I have a 1 Dark Magician Girl, and, well, for one thing, I just like Dark Magician Girl in general. Who doesn't, right? But secondly, well, to be honest, I was using Dark Magician Girl because I wanted to work my way toward getting the mat and the sleeves and stuff like that. But I really do think the card actually works in this deck for a lot of reasons, because at worst you can use Dark Magician Girl as fodder to ritual summon Relinquish, and in ideal situations you can end up just doing a regular tribute summon and just fighting with her. It's not the best thing in the world, but at the very least you have a beat stick with at least 2,000 attack points. Next up, we have the Searchers, which would be Sonic Bird and Senju of the Thousand Hands respectively, who are both awesome in a ritual based deck, because after all, they let you search for the specific ritual pieces that you may or may not need in a specific situation. And obviously in a very optimal deck, at least for Duel Links, you would want probably about 2 of each, but I only managed to get 1 of each. But I found with this deck that 1 of each, it was still good enough. There were a few edge cases where I really wanted to just see one or the other, but that's gonna happen with these cards anyway. But yeah, these are absolute staples for a ritual based deck. Next up, we have Spirit Kuriboh, and Spirit Kuriboh, of course, is just gonna be a universal staple for pretty much every deck on Duel Links, because it's a hand trap that can force a monster to go into defense mode as it's attacking, and hand traps are very tricky to counteract in general. And especially in this deck, it's useful because you can use it as a ritual summon, tribute when it's in the graveyard, which is a really big deal, because you can eat up your Spirit Kuriboh early on in the game, and then ritual summon it with it later from the graveyard, which is it's just great value overall. Next, I have 1 Legion the Fiend Jester, and this card is pretty good for this deck because you have the means of doing the really big power play with it, which is you normal summon with it, and then you tribute it for Dark Magician Girl, and then this will trigger its effect for going into the graveyard, and then in this case you search for your vanilla spellcaster, and in this deck's case, it was Doriado was the vanilla spellcaster I would choose, which so you end up with a Dark Magician Girl out in play, and then a Doriado in your hand for whatever purpose. I then ran a pair of 4-starred Ladybug of Doom, and this card is, I think this card is just really relevant in general, because the fact that by just flipping, it can destroy all level 4 monsters on your opponent's side of the field is a really big deal, because it can potentially board wipe your opponent, and throwing in the fact that level 4 is such a common level in that, especially if your opponent's running a you know a beatdown deck. 4-star Ladybug of Doom is bound to hit something in a lot of realistic situations. So it actually helped me win a lot of games because, you know, my opponent would try to swarm me, and then they would just crash into a 4-star Ladybug of Doom and just get their board wiped out, and then I would just regain control of a game. It's great. Next up, I ran one Djinn. Well, I'm not gonna bother saying its name, but it's the one that gives trap immunity when you ritual summon with it. And this card is just crazy, especially in Duel Links, because the way Duel Links the format is set up, it's such a tempo based thing. So one bad turn and that can be it. Especially because how fast games go, and the fact that I can make your ritual summon monster trap immune is nuts. You know, the fact that it becomes an elemental hero wild heart, like on the spot if you ritual summon with it. So that means stuff like mirror wall, all that stuff does not work on your monster, and you can just attack pretty much recklessly into a lot of things just because of the fact that traps are just become irrelevant to you. But this card is absolute must. Of the Djinns they have in Duel Links right now, this one is definitely the better one than the other one, which is the other one is just the one that makes you discard your opponent if you happen to hit them with battle damage. But this one is just way too strong, and there's no comparison. And the fact that you can ritual summon with it if it's in the graveyard, it's also great too. So more value there. Next up, I ran a full set of Skalangle. Skalangle is actually one of my favorite flip effect monsters in general because it's such a straightforward effect. You flip it and you draw a card, and when you draw cards like quickly through your deck and stuff like that, you just improve your probability for finding the cards you need by that much. And at its worst, it's a very weak block. It's a weak blocker and stuff like that. Pretty much everything runs over its defense and everything like that. But that's okay, as long as you get to the relinquish pieces and stuff like that. This card does work. Finally, my last monster is Doriado, and a lot of people are probably gonna be looking at this and it's like, okay, what's the point of this Doriado? Well, one, I just like the art, and two, I just needed a vanilla spellcaster for the aforementioned Legion the Fiend Jester, and yeah, that's why she's there. And at worst, she's ritual summon fodder, so it's fine. It's fine that she eats up the deck slot. Next up, we have spells, and I have one Shard of Greed. Shard of Greed is one of the best spells you can have in Duel Links, just because it's card advantage. You play it, then you wait 2 turns, and you can draw 2 more cards, and it's just great value when you need to just build up your hand size and everything like that. Next up, I have Storm. Now, Storm is going to be a really weird card in the sense that a lot of people often run Twister in this place, but I just prefer Storm in this case because I use Yami Yugi as my character with the character skill Power of Dark. And Power of Dark puts out a Yami field spell out in play automatically at the beginning. So that means if I happen to draw Storm early on, and chances are that my opponent's not gonna go after the Yami field. It's honestly just in the deck more as a decoy and anything like that. But when you use it with Storm, it's a -1, but you can destroy any spell or trap card in the field. Granted, it's spell speed 1, but that's fine. That's like the worst case with it. But ideally, what I like with it is you use it with Relinquish. You combine it with Relinquish's power, because let's say you absorb a monster, you equip it to Relinquish, and you need to switch off that monster, off Relinquish for some reason, because let's say your opponent plays a stronger monster and you really want to absorb that one instead, but you can't just, detach the equipped monster. But if you play Storm, you can use the equipped monster as a fodder to help you get rid of that monster. It sets up all kinds of interesting plays. And that's why I actually, with the next card, was, release Restraint Wave. And Release Restraint Wave is great when you need to destroy your equipped card anyway, and your opponent has a lot of spell trap cards on the field, and it's just really satisfying when you happen to use Release Restraint Wave when your opponent has a full back row, and it gets all destroyed. But I've experimented with both, and that's why I just use one of each, because I tried 2 release Restraint Wave, and it just became a dead draw in a lot of cases, because at least having both of them. So I think covering your bases with both is a lot more ideal in this case. And then finally, 2 Black Illusion Ritual and 1 Mirror Wall, because it's by far the best trap in Duel Links right now. And that rounds out the deck. But yeah, so this is the deck and stuff. Like I said, I'm not claiming it's the best deck that you can build, especially in regards to Relinquish or anything like that. There are definitely stronger ways of putting this deck together, just a lot more optimal. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is you don't necessarily need like the best cards per se if you want to climb for King of Games, because not to say that the competition going all the way up was underwhelming or anything like that, because let's just say I got pretty used to going against the likes of Rex Raptor and Meiko Tsunami decks like left and right, and once you understand how to go against them, because I'm a firm believer in you don't have to play like the meta, but you have to respect it. You have to understand why people go for those particular decks. And honestly, the hardest decks that I faced going up to King of Games was the rogue decks. They were just the really just from left field type of decks that you wouldn't expect, and you get blindsided by some really, really random stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to share my deck and stuff like that. And this was I'm happy with how the deck, obviously, because it got me to King of Games and stuff like that. And maybe some people might not think much of King of Games, but I don't know. I had fun playing with this deck up to King of Games and stuff. So anyway, thank you for listening.